So we'll get right to it. Here's the tip for the day. The tip for the day is about support for our condition adjustments. Do you ever wonder, how do I support? I've got C4s, 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 and I got a C3 in there, and I really want to use it. What do I do about that? Is that a concern? Isn't that fun? Don't we enjoy those kinds of challenges? So here's a tip for you that might work for you. So guess what? It's based on the paired sales concept. Everybody's familiar with the paired sales concept. I showed you this review thing here, but you have the property, the superior property on top is property number one, and the inferior on number two, and you take the difference in sales prices and the difference in units. In our case, we're doing an example for C3 versus C4, the condition things under the UAD. Everybody with me on that? So it's just one unit thing, so it's just one. So if you take the number of units and divide it into the difference, that'd give you the number per unit. So it's going to be the same amount. So that'll give you the amount, that'll give you the adjustment for condition, the amount attributable to condition. So that's the concept. So you're probably saying to me, okay, Lloyd, where do you find these pairs of sales? Everybody's saying that. I can see it all across your countenances. Well, where are they? Maybe, perhaps, they're right in front of our own very eyes. They might be right in front of our own very eyes, right on the, got to push the right button, right on the URAR form, the 1004 sales grid. Did you ever think about that? That's right, might be where your best thing is. So, how can we obtain an adjustment for condition that way? And what do we use for support for our condition? Right there in front of our eyes. Suppose the subject is a C3 for condition. Everybody familiar with what C3 is. And you've got three good C3 comps, let's just say, but you've got another one that's really a good comp, but it's a C4. You've got to call it a C4. So then you've got to put an adjustment. You don't want to have a C4 and a C3 on the same grid without an adjustment, do you? If the subject's a C3, wouldn't you say that's true? So what are you going to do? So the sales we provide in our URAR sales grid provide the solution to our dilemma. So we're going to assume in this situation that 1, 2, and 3 are C3s and 4 is a C4. So we can use the adjusted sales price. After we adjust the sales price for everything but that one thing, condition, we're not going to adjust for condition, we're going to leave that out of there. Then the adjusted sales prices ought to be indicative of what the value should be between the ones that have C3 and the ones that have the one that has C4. So it's going to give us 3 paired sales, isn't it? Sale number 4 we can pair with each of the other 3 sales, so we've got 3 paired sales. Now, I don't have it in this example, but why couldn't you throw in a sale 5 and get 6 paired sales? You could do that. 6 is better than 3, isn't it? The more support you do for something, the better off you are. So, if we assume that all the adjustments for the differences besides conditions were market derived, then our adjusted sales prices should be indicative of what the value is, should it not? And they should all be equal to each other. It's logical to conclude that the remaining difference in the adjusted sales prices is attributable to that one factor we haven't adjusted for, condition. So we correlate the amount from these 3 pairs of sales into a single amount. We can do the mean, the median, or a weighted average technique, or that should cover it, the ways we'd reconcile them into a single amount, and that becomes our adjustment for condition, and we apply this adjustment as the adjustment for condition to the sales used in the appraisal. So that's it. So let's do an example. What do you say? Shall we do an example? So first of all, a big fat disclaimer. Don't use what I do in this example as an adjustment for any appraisal you ever do now or in the future. It's just an example. So it's not really market-derived data. It's an example. It's an example that is show the technique and the methodology. So in this example, the subject in sales 1, 2, and 3 are all C3s for condition, and the sale number 4 is C4 for condition. They're all, but it's the one with the C4 condition is still a good comp. You can visualize it being right in the same block, across the same style, same builder, good date of sale and all that sort of stuff. So we don't want to pass that up. So before we go on, we should review a couple of concepts. We adjust, the first concept to discuss is we adjust the sales price of the comp to indicate what it would have sold for if it was equal in characteristics to the subject, right? And we do, if we do that, if we adjust all of these to all of the comps, then all of the comps are going to be equal to each other as well. If they're all equal to the subject, they're equal to each other, aren't we? So 1, 2, and 3 are equal to each other for an indication of value, and so is 4, except it's missing that condition adjustment. So that's one concept. They're equal, if they're equal to the subject, they're equal to each other. Another concept is, in this paired sales technique, it's acceptable to have more than one difference and adjust them down to just the one difference as long as we use market-derived adjustments, right? That's the legitimate concept. So we've got that all taken care of. So now let's let our imagination go wild, and you're going to need to do that to assume that this next slide is from our URAR form, because it doesn't quite look like it, does it? But it's got all the same stuff on it. It's got the features, the subject information, the sales comps. We got the sales prices there. This one had concessions, so we pulled those out. We adjusted for date of sale. I think that comes out to be about 7% per annum if you figured it out. We adjusted for GLA. We adjusted one. We had to adjust for age. These are pretty close, so we didn't adjust for age. Notice we didn't adjust for condition for the C4. So after we've made all these, here's our net adjustments. We combine them with the sales price to get the adjusted sales price. These adjusted sales prices are all indicative of what they're being equal, except 4 is a little different because we didn't adjust for C4. So this difference then we could conclude is attributable to condition, could we not? Doesn't that make a lot of sense? So there's our 3 pairs of sales. There's the sales price for sale 1, the adjusted sales price for sale 1, 2, and 3. And there's the adjusted sales price. It's going to be the same for our C4 because we're using that in each one of them. So the difference is if you subtract, you get these differences. And then we got to correlate those into a single amount we want to use. The mean would be 16, 7, 18. The median is 17, 599. That's the one in the middle, of course. That would be the median. If you gave each of those 2 equal weight, that would give you 17,159. So it's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of a $17,000 adjustment, rounded off. So we've got that for our adjustments. So now all we've got to do is go back to our grid, plug in the adjustments, and voila, there we have it. Isn't that a nice range? See, there it is, right in front of your very eyes. You have an adjustment market-derived for condition. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
All right.